For our master shot, we used an ARRI Amira camera. To light our talent, we used an ARRI 1K, positioned upstage, camera left, distance of 8 feet from our talent with a height of 6 feet from the ground, angled 50 degrees towards the ground with a black wrapper bottomer. This light served as Rick's hair light and also as Ilsa's key light. For our next light, we used an ARRI 300 positioned downstage, camera right, a distance of 10 feet from our actors, a height of 8 feet from the ground, angled 45 degrees towards the ground. This light served as Ilsa's backlight and Rick's fill. To light our background, we used two Reefa 55s. Our first Reefa 55 was positioned upstage, camera right, with a distance of 14 feet from the back wall, with a height of 6 feet 6 inches from the ground, angles 45 degrees up towards the ceiling. A flag was placed in front of the light to prevent reflection. For our second Reefa 55, it was positioned downstage, camera left, distance of 21 feet from the wall, a height of 5 feet 7 inches from the ground, angled 60 degrees up towards the ceiling, and also had a flag placed in front of the light to prevent reflection. Outside our set, we had a 2K positioned 52 feet 6 inches from our actors at a height of 5 feet 1 inch from the ground, angled straight on with a black wrap snoot to shape the light. We also had a flag hanging over a street light to prevent glare showing in the window. For Rick's medium, to light our talent, we used an ARRI 1K positioned upstage, camera right at a distance of 5 feet 2 inches from our talent, a height of 7 feet from the ground, angled 40 degrees down. This light served as Rick's key light. Next, we used an ARRI 300 positioned center upstage, distance of 9 feet 2 inches from our talent, a height of 5 feet 10 inches from the ground, angled 25 degrees down. This was used as Rick's backlight. For our next light, we used an ARRI 300 positioned upstage, camera left, distance of 9 feet 2 inches from our talent, a height of 3 feet 8 inches from the ground, angled straight on, shot through a 4x4 silk. This was used as Rick's backlight as well. For our fill, we used a bounce card positioned upstage, camera left, distance of 4 feet, height of 4 feet 7 inches, angled straight on. To light our background, we used a Reefa 55 positioned outside upstage right, a distance of 6 feet 9 inches from our back wall, and a height of 4 feet 6 inches from the ground, angled 20 degrees up. Outside our set, we shined an ARRI 1K through a curtain to add texture to the shot. It was positioned outside upstage, camera left, at a distance of 37 feet 4 inches from our actors, a height of 5 feet 2 inches from the ground, angled straight on. For Rick's close-up, to light our talent, we used an ARRI 1K positioned upstage, camera right, at a distance of 5 feet 2 inches from the talent, height of 7 feet off the ground, angled 40 degrees down. This light was used as Rick's key light. Our next light was an ARRI 300 positioned center upstage at a distance of 6 feet 4 inches from our talent, a height of 4 feet off the ground, angled straight on. This served as a backlight. Our next light was an ARRI 300 positioned upstage, camera left, distance 6 feet 9 inches from our talent at a height of 3 feet 6 inches from the ground, angled straight on, shot through a 4x4 silk for diffusion. We used a bounce card for fill. It was positioned upstage, camera left, at a distance of 4 feet from our talent, a height of 4 feet 7 inches from the ground, and it was angled straight on. To light our background, we used a Reefa 55 positioned outside upstage, camera right, at a distance of 6 feet 9 inches away from the back wall, at a height of 4 feet 6 inches from the ground, angled 20 degrees up. Outside our set, we shined an ARRI 1K through a curtain to add texture to the shot. It was positioned outside upstage, camera left, at a distance of 37 feet 4 inches from our talent, at a height of 5 feet 2 inches from the ground, angled straight on. For Ilsa's close-up, we used a small LED positioned on the table, downstage, camera right, at a distance of 3 feet 5 inches from our talent, a height of 2 feet 8 inches from the ground, angled 45 degrees up towards our talent. This served as Ilsa's fill light. Our next light was an ARRI 300 positioned upstage, camera left, at a distance of 3 feet 9 inches from the talent, at a height of 7 feet 9 inches from the ground, angled 50 degrees down towards the ground, and this served as Ilsa's backlight. Our next light was an ARRI 1K positioned downstage, camera left, at a distance of 7 feet 7 inches from our talent, a height of 7 feet 7 inches from the ground, angled straight on, shot through a 4x4 diffusion silk. To light our background, we used a Reefa 55 positioned upstage, camera right, at a distance of 11 feet away from the curtain, a height of 6 feet off the ground, and angled straight on. We also had 8 small LED lights from our phones shining onto the background from a distance of 7 feet 4 inches away at a height of 5 feet 2 inches off the ground, shot straight onto the curtain.
So for the first shot, we created a lift, gamma, and gain layer to start out. You can see we brought the lift down just a little bit, brought the gamma up just a tad, and then also brought the gain down. The first thing we focused on was Ilsa's face. You can see that it's pretty dark there, so we added a mask in to brighten it up. You can see it already looks a lot better. We had to track it, you can see. And so then there's also a shadow that we wanted to bring in on her neck and the side of her head, so we created another mask for that. Looks pretty good. Just brought down the lift and the gamma. So then Rick, we wanted to add another mask in to bring in a shadow on the right side of his face. Didn't do too much, but added just a little bit. And so then we created a blur layer to blur out the background. So we masked around the two of them and just blurred out the background just a little bit more. So then the final thing we did was create a grain layer to get it closer to the original. For the second shot, we created a lift, gain, and gamma layer again. There you can see what we did. Made it a little bit brighter. So the first thing we focused on was the shadow on Ilsa's face. We created a mask and brought that in. That looks really good, I think. And then her neck needed to be a little bit brighter, though, because we covered a little bit too much. So created another mask, brought it up just a little bit in the lift. And we played with the curves a little bit. Played with the curves a little bit right there. Just brought down the darks, you can see. So then we added a little hair light right there at the tip of her hair. So there's a shine coming off the actress in the original take. So then for her body, we just brought it up. Her jacket is pretty bright, and her body is pretty bright in the original, so we brought up the gamma for that. And we created another mask to bring up her jacket more. You can see the gain we brought up pretty substantially, and really it shines off her jacket. Now her face had a pretty noticeable glow in the original, so we created another mask and just made her face glow a little more. So in shot 3, we created a lift, gamma, and gain layer. You can see up here, brought down the lift, brought down the gamma, and brought down the gain. So the first thing we did really was focus on this bottle. It was pretty out of focus in the original, so we created a mask and just blurred it out more. So then we added a mask on Rick's face to add in a little bit of a shadow on the right side. Brought down the gain. Then the left shadow we wanted to bring up just a little bit, so we just brought up the lift a tad. So then his jacket's pretty dark right here, so we created another mask and brought it up. So then the highlight on the right side of his jacket, shoulder and arm, we wanted to bring back down though. So we brought the gain way down and the gamma down. Then for Ilsa, she's a lot darker in the original, so we created a big mask right here to bring down her back. You can see right there. But then we also wanted to bring down her arm, so we created another mask. It's a little bit brighter, and so we did a different mask, but brought it down too. I think it blends pretty well. Then the background, we didn't want to do too much with it. We just wanted to bring it down a tad, which is what we did. So for Rick's hair, we wanted to be a little brighter behind it, so we added a little bit of a hair light right there. Just a little mask to bring out a little bit of texture. And we added the grain layer for this shot. So then for the close-up, we created a lift, gamma, and gain layer as always. Brought down the lift. You'll see there. Brought down the gamma. You can see there. And brought down the gain. So then the background left, we wanted just to take out a little bit of that light. Created a mask there, you can see. So then his face, we wanted to bring down and add a little bit of a shadow on the right side of his face. Did there, tracked it. Worked pretty well. Then the background on the right, we wanted to bring up the brightness, so we made a mask over there. You can see we brought it in, got a little bit of texture out of it. You can see brought up the lift and the gain. Then the bottle, we wanted to make that a little bit more blurry as well, so we created a mask, brought up the defocus, and brought down the clarity. Then we added the grain layer for this shot. So then the final shot was another take of that close-up. So we just copied in the layers. All of them are the same, except we had to create another face layer to create that mask on his face for this shot, since his face is in a little bit different position. Brought it down, added that shadow in, and tracked just there at the end the part of the take we're actually using, and then we brought in the grain layer.
This is Victor Larson with the tutorial on how to make ambient smoke in After Effects. Now, the first thing that you are going to do is you're going to make a new solid. Dark gray works, making sure that it's all the right sizes that you need, and hit OK. And now we have the order that the footage needs to be in, so you have proper, smoke is the solid on top of everything else. This is an ambient effect, so it should affect everything pretty evenly. Now, on this dark gray solid, which is just gray, as you can see, we are going to grab the fractal noise effect in the effects and presets folder for After Effects, and we're going to put it on our footage, and it should look like this. Now, this is static that you are starting with, so it is completely random pixel generation stuff. Now, I use Dynamic Twist and Spline as my two systems, and you can see that we're already making it more soft. So we're gonna take the contrast up to like 270, as a starting point. Of course, none of these numbers are things that you have to follow to make the smoke. It's just what I have been using recently. Now, you want your complexity all the way up at 20, because we want it really, really nice and detailed. And now we're going to go down to Evolution, and we're going to Option click it. Option click the stopwatch to create an expression. Now, the expression we're going to use for Evolution is time times or star, and we're going to do about 70. This will make it a pretty lively smoke, and you don't need to hit enter after that. It'll work in it. Now we're going to click on the evolution options, and for random seed, we're just going to drag that number and drag it out to somewhere. This will make sure that each time that you do it, it'll be slightly different. Next, we're going to click on transform. Now, here you're going to want to use the offset turbulence to make the whole thing move around like smoke. So we're going to option click it to create a expression, and in this expression we will open bracket value. Now this is 0 is the first one, not 1, and we're going to add time times about 60. Now this will give it a directional motion, so if you only do one of these two values that we're typing in, then you'll end up with motion in one direction, one of the four. Next, you do value. Not opening the bracket this time, because that is to enclose the entire system. Now that is value 1. We're going to subtract, because that makes it move vertically, about 70. Now, this is going to be an extremely lively smoke. Make sure to bracket it off. And, okay, so as we move this around, we can see that we have some slight undulation, but this is way too detailed in texture. This looks like wool more than smoke. So we're going to find our scaling, and we're going to basically max it out. The bigger you make it, of course, the more string-like the smoke will be. Now, the more string-like it will be, more like smoke has been hanging around in the room for a few minutes, having good time to stretch out in the air currents. And finally, you're going to want to close all of these effects and then click on transform for the solid specifically, which I've found to make like believable smoke is about 13, right? And now you can see that there's just a little tiny bit of gray. It's moving around just a little bit, right? So now we reveal the image that we had below it. I had it hidden for the purposes of this tutorial, but as you can see, we have some ambient smoke. Now, of course, this isn't what we ended up using in the final project. We tuned that a little bit better for the purposes of matching the original, but this is how you go about making said smoke. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hey there, everybody. This is to cover the practical effect smoke that has been overlaid in our LCA4. Now, of course, the first step was to import the footage. We have it right here in our 2 layers in our comp. And the most important thing for this footage, if we look at the original, is that we have a black background so that we can do an additive blending mode, specifically screen, so that we get all the positive values of light added to our image, which is underneath. All right, so we have 2 instances of this right here so that we can avoid camera shake during our actual take. You can see that we made a mask here with some good feathering around the edges to make sure that you can't see, for example, the table, which is in our original matte. And from there, we went ahead and overlaid it on our footage, which you can see right here. You can tell that the smoke is moving behind the water bottle, and that is because if we get rid of the actual image, we have a mask around a copy of that water bottle that would be right here, right above everything else, to make sure that it is in front of that smoke. Now, since it is a direct copy without ever being moved of what is in the background, it looks like it actually blends in and that our smoke is simply fitting into the background. Going from there, we also lowered the speed for both of these to make the smoke move in a little bit more similar fashion to what happened in the actual film. And on top of that, we lowered the opacity down to 55. Now, I had it at 100 for this example, but here you can see something that is more similar to what we have in our final export. And that is all. Thank you so much for listening.
Why did you have to come to Casa Blanca? There are other places.
I wouldn't have come if I'd known that you were here. Believe me, Rick, it's true. I didn't know.
Funny about your voice, how it hasn't changed. I can still hear it. Richard, dear, I'll go with you any place. We'll get on a train
Please
together
don't.
and never stop.
Don't, Rick. I can understand how you feel.
You understand how I feel. How long was it we had, honey?
I didn't count the days.
Well, I did. Every one of them. Mostly I remember the last one. The wow finish, a guy standing on a station platform in the rain with a comical look on his face because his insides had been kicked out.
Can I tell you a story, Rick?
You got a wow finish?
I don't know the finish yet.
Well, go on, tell it. Maybe one will come to you as you go along.
It's about a girl who had just come to Paris from her home in Oslo. At the house of some friends, she met a man about whom she had heard her whole life, a very great and courageous man. He opened up for her a whole beautiful world full of knowledge and thoughts and ideals. Everything she knew or ever became was because of him. And she looked up to him and worshipped him with the feeling she supposed was love.
Yes, it's very pretty. I heard a story once. As a matter of fact, I've heard a lot of stories in my time. They went along with the sound of a tinny piano playing in the parlor downstairs. Mister, I met a man once when I was a kid. It always began. Well, I guess neither one of our stories is very funny. Tell me, who was it you left me for? Was it Laszlo, or were there others in between? Or aren't you the kind that tells?
Why did you have to come to Casa Blanca? There are other places.
I wouldn't have come if I'd known you were here. Believe me, Rick, it's true. I didn't know.
It's funny about your voice, how it hasn't changed. You can still hear it. Richard, dear, I'll go with you any place. We'll get on a train together and never stop.
Don't, Rick. I can understand how you feel.
You understand how I feel. How long is it we had, honey?
I didn't count the days.
Well, I did. Every one of them. Mostly I remember the last one. A wow finish. A guy standing on a station platform in the rain with a comical look on his face because his insides have been kicked in.
Can I tell you a story, Rick?
So you got a wow finish?
I don't know the finish yet.
Well, go on and tell it. Maybe one will come to you as you go along.
It's about a girl who had just come to Paris from her home in Oslo. At the house of some friends, she met a man about whom she'd heard her whole life. A very great and courageous man. He opened up for her a whole beautiful world full of thoughts and knowledge and ideals. Everything she knew and became was because of him. And she looked up to him and worshipped him with a feeling she supposed was love.
Yes, that's very pretty. I heard a story once. As a matter of fact, I heard a lot of stories in my time. They all went along to the sound of a tinny piano playing in a parlor downstairs. Mister, I met a man once when I was a kid. It always began. I guess neither one of our stories was very funny. Tell me, who is it you left me for? Was it Laszlo, or were there others in between, or aren't you the kind that tells?
Why did you have to come to Casa Blanca? There are other places.
I wouldn't have come if I'd known that you were here. Believe me, Rick, it's true. I didn't know.
Funny about your voice, how it hasn't changed. I can still hear it. Richard, dear, I'll go with you any place. We'll get on a train together and never stop.
Don't, Rick. I can understand how you feel.
You understand how I feel. How long was it we had, honey?
I didn't count the days.
Well, I did. Every one of them. Mostly I remember the last one. The wow finish, a guy standing on a station platform in the rain with a comical look on his face because his insides had been kicked out.
Can I tell you a story, Rick?
Has it got a wow finish?
I don't know the finish yet.
Well, go on, tell it. Maybe one will come to you as you go along.
It's about a girl who had just come to Paris from her home in Oslo. At the house of some friends, she met a man about whom she had heard her whole life. A very great and courageous man. He opened up for her a whole beautiful world full of knowledge and thoughts and ideals. Everything she knew or ever became was because of him. And she looked up to him and worshipped him with a feeling she supposed was love.
Yes, it's very pretty. I heard a story once. As a matter of fact, I've heard a lot of stories in my time. They went along with the sound of a tinny piano playing in the parlor downstairs. Mister, I met a man once when I was a kid. It always began. Well, I guess neither one of our stories is very funny. Tell me, who was it you left me for? Was it Laszlo, or were there others in between? Or aren't you the kind that tells?